February the 4th, 2026. Guys, you're looking at the current information coming in from SolarHam, and I'm noticing a little pattern I want to talk about here. We haven't had another flare since, or another solar X flare since the X 4.2 this morning. Now over here on the left, this is a list of the flares, and all of these have came from 4366. Now the first one came on February the 1st. Now the last one, the X 4.2, happened this morning. So we have 3 days now of flares, and this is again, the first one was the strongest. The 8.1 came out of nowhere, and this lists 17 flares. Again, notice here above an M3 plus in the last 72 hours. It's 3 days from the first until, from the first to the 4th. 3 days is what we're dealing with here of this activity, and we're still dealing with a high chance of X flares. And one thing we've been very fortunate about is that we have had no CMEs, and what that does is it's one of the factors that adds pressure to our tectonic plates in our earthquake zones, but also the first event, the burst, and the energy is involved with it. And if that is unrelentless, then the pressure builds. But here you can see this morning's 4.2, and then an M flare here. And after these big ones, sometimes that'll take a little energy out of the situation and they will die down. But let's see, we still got a 40% chance of an X flare, 80% chance of an M flare. And this is today's solar wind, plasma density, and the shield information. And we saw coming in right about there the impact of the CME. Now there's another one coming, but I'm thinking this one we're seeing a stronger section of it all of a sudden, because right here we're seeing a spike of 478 on the solar wind speed. You notice that right there? I don't know how long that would stay down, and a spike in the temperature right there. And when you see a spike in the solar wind, you'll see this in the plasma density. The wind picks up, it thins out the density like wind will thin out a smoke around a campfire, guys. And that's what we're seeing now up here in this latest section of the rise. We're seeing an opening in the shields. This purple area here in the graph is indicating that. And so a lot of energy is pouring in right now, even though it's not super high wind speeds. We're dealing with half of what we've seen in many times, but it's elevated and it is fast. Now, I'm not the only one watching the San Andreas fault line, but let's take a look at it, guys. A couple other people, it has caught their attention. I've got this set at all magnitudes for the last 7 days. Now, we're only dealing with 3 days of solar flares, but this particular earthquake model from the USGS does not allow you but 1 in 7 days or 30 days. So again, the list on the left, you can scroll down. It takes a long time to get just to the first when our solar activity picked up. But look at this, San Andreas here. And you got some in Texas. Some probably has to do with drilling, things like that. You'll see that, especially in the 5K depth range. But here, we're starting to see pressure. Now, I'm going to pull this up a little bit. And we always see a movement on the San Andreas. This is just a little bit unusual. And I have this to only list the earthquakes shown on the map. So I'm pulling Texas out of it for a moment. And we have 819 quakes in the last 7 days. Again, most of them have been in the last 3. There were some before it, but not many. You see 1 or 2 per day coming into the end of January as far as any kind of intensity at all. But this pressure is building, and it's starting to show up all along this area, Cascadia Fault Zone. The red indicates the newer quakes. We got them on both ends here. Now, you can see, again, the fault lines here, and you see the concentration. And what I've got it set on is U.S. fault lines. And again, this is one of the major ones the entire West Coast has to be concerned with, and it goes down through Mexico and all the way down the eastern side of the Ring of Fire. But this is something to keep an eye on, guys, just saying, because again, the sunspot's growing. It's now really good in earth facing. We got a couple more days to deal with that. But these, again, you're getting a photon burst. It's blacking the radios out. We're seeing an increase in solar wind speed that more than likely, this is the first impact from the 8.1. We just saw the solar wind right today. So we're going to have 3 days of that impact steady on us. Just imagine. And we saw in the last few frames of the solar wind speed that it was starting to climb up, and the solar density was dropping. The temperature was coming up. Now, add 3 days that we know of coming of energy and whatever occurs between now and then. Some of them were very long flares. But let me change this to what's called U.S. hazards. Now notice the red line right there is one of the most dangerous spots there is. You got over on the New Madrid fault line, a couple of other places, but most of these, let me turn it back off and you watch it. Again, the San Andreas. And that's where the majority of these quakes are. Pushing in a pressure area. Guys, when was the last big quake there where we saw the interstates collapse and all of that? Was it in the late 90s? I can't remember right off the bat. And you had the one, it happened during a ball game, a baseball game at San Francisco, I think. Anyway, a couple of big ones. And the scientists have said that we're a little past due. And I know for a fact that this puts pressure on our plates. So that may be what we're dealing with right now. Now, I'm going to go back to the solar wind chart because I think it updates every 5 minutes, and you can see already that it has went just a little bit further on this drop in density. It's starting to level back out. See that solar wind speed? We are like 478 was the peak in here. And again, we've seen them much higher, but this is when you continue it. And for 3 or 4 days, then that pressure continues to build. So it's time to keep your eyes on the San Andreas and the Cascadia fault zone. Just keep in mind, as long as we know we have 3 more days, right, of pressure. If you're in one of those areas, heed the watches. It's not a warning, but it is a watch for sure. Anyway, guys, there's a lot going on. We're trying to keep up with it the best we can. It's a heads up. Be safe.